Hi everyone. I wanted to do a little video that goes into the parts of a research article so that you can save a lot of time when you wade through all the information that's available to you. Most people taking this class are early in their college career. It's one of the first couple of classes that they might take. So hopefully this will help you to save some time because it will go over how you actually go about reading these kinds of articles. So the first thing that you might come across when you see a research article is the abstract. And an abstract is essentially a summary. So, and it's not really considered part of the article. It's a summary that is developed when these articles are put into databases so that you don't have to read the whole article. You can just read a summary of the article or an abstract. But when we look at the parts of the article themselves, the first thing that you'll see is a review of the literature. And this is sometimes called background, sometimes it's called the introduction. Essentially, with every research article, the researcher is trying to find an answer to a question. Well, they can't get it published if the question's already been answered. So the very first few parts of like maybe a paragraph, maybe up to 4 or 5 paragraphs or longer, depending on the topic, the researcher has to detail what has already been asked and answered. And that then provides a background for why that researcher is asking this new question, which is this current article that is being studied. So the second part that they will discuss then is called the methodology. And that is very specific to how they went about testing their question or finding an answer to their question. Now, it's called methodology, sometimes it's termed methods, and you might be reading where it just shows the term methods and then all sorts of other things are in there like data, measures, analysis. They might take a paragraph and operationally define the terms that they used for their study. This is going to just lay out very clearly how they conducted their study. The next part is where they get really geeky, for lack of a better term. And what they're doing is reporting the results. Sometimes it's called the findings. And here's where you get numbers, you get tables, you get graphs, you might get narratives. All you get during this section is what they found. They don't weigh in on it. They just tell you the data. They just give you the information of what they found. They will, however, give you information about what they think about the findings in the discussion section. And sometimes it's called implications, sometimes it's called conclusion, or it might have all three of those terms in there. Essentially what they're doing is weighing in with their expertise. They're weighing in on what those results mean and in terms of how they answer their original question. The very final section is references, also known as a bibliography, also known as citations. And these citations are really important because they actually refer back up here to this review of the literature. If they're going to say so-and-so in this particular year found the answer to that question, they must cite their source. So this is where it can really come in handy when you are looking at articles. If you're trying to find an article that meets the needs for your paper in whatever class you have, you really don't have to read the methodology or the results because you're not going to be asked, most classes, at least early in your college career, are not going to ask you how they did the study or what they actually found. Really what you're going to need to do is look at what those implications are. Or let's say you need to have 5 sources for your English paper. You could look at the review of the literature and just find specific information about certain questions that have been answered in the past. And then if you look at the citations, you'll actually find those citations so you can get those articles. Now, when you look these things up in an actual document, here's an example of a research paper, right? And you can see here's the abstract. This is a PDF file of it, but here we go. Here's the introduction. And you can see here, this is how this particular author has talked about and has cited those sources. You can see the review of the literature. This is almost like, it's like a train. They're asking, that each research question, each research article answers a question, but it always leaves you with a new question. So then really the review of the literature is stringing together all of the questions that have already been answered on the topic. You can see all of these citations throughout this entire section is talking about this is what we already know from research and this is what we don't know from research, and so that's why I am doing this study. And here we go with considerations for the literature review. Every research article will start with a review of the literature. And then it will go into methodology. And then it will go into the results. See, here we go. We're in methodology, data, measures, operationally defining all these terms, and even analyzing things. This is still part of the methods. And now we have the results. Here we go with characteristics of the sample, and again, here we go. It's always going to be tables. Now, when you're reading things for a research paper, you probably don't need to memorize all the data, the raw data as it came up. When you get into a higher level of studies in your field of interest, yes. But for your purposes, especially for classes that you take in your first couple of years of college, you need a broad understanding. This is eventually, when we get through all of this data, we're eventually going to get to a discussion. Let's see if I'm right. We're still on data, and here we have a discussion. And the discussion may include implications or not. It might have a conclusion, or it may be a conclusion by itself. But in some way, we are discussing what the data shows us, and then here we go with references. All of these references relate directly to that part up here in our introduction. Oops, that's the abstract. So that's where you will find the citations. Now, here's another example. And in this particular research article, they've actually, as their abstract, they've actually given you a little summary of each of these pieces. See, you see background, also known as review of the literature, methods, results, and discussion conclusion. They also included keywords, which is helpful. And here we have it. Here's the background. Here's the methods. We're going to get to results pretty soon. Here's the results, the findings. And then we're going to have some kind of implication discussion. What does it mean for us? We're still analyzing the results here. And now we have, oops, this is a long study. You can see where this might be really helpful because you can skip all that part and just read the discussion part. If you're doing a paper on what are the results, what do they mean for what you need for your paper, this can be really time saving. If you are looking at an actual online version, here is something from our databases, our library databases, and here we have all the authors, and this is where you'll find the abstract. So time saving, you can just read the abstract and see if it helps you. Or you can go right here, here's the introduction, and the introduction will have a review of the literature. And here is the table of contents. You can see right here, using the databases, you can skip right to methods or right to the discussions. Here's the results. You can skip right to the discussion section. So that's pretty helpful. Or you can skip right to the references section. So that's how you can make use of the parts of a research study in order to save you some time and really get a better understanding of how authors will lay out the information to give you. Hope this was helpful.